Yes. Okay. Right. Welcome, welcome. I am so glad to see as many people as there are here with us right now. We're going to start by doing a really short little video slideshow of our special guests here. And let's see, share.
Roxanne, is the slideshow going? Because it's not playing for us.
All right, hold on. All right, let me go back.
Your screen's not shared yet with us.
Yep. I got to do the share, sound, and optimize. That cute little trick there. All right.
And you can stop the video for yourself before you do it if you want.
Did that come up?
Nope. Turn the video off on you and
Okay.
and then share the screen.
All right, let's see. All right, share screen.
So video off first.
Yep. All right, let me see. Stop video.
There you
Yep.
go. Now share
There.
screen.
All right, now. There, I got it. I forgot to do stop this video. Now, let's see. Okay. Okay. Are we back?
Yep.
All right.
Worked. Great.
Aha. Well, a big shout out to Vanessa, who helped put that slideshow together. Love that lady. And thank you, Vanessa, for doing that. Once again, welcome. And I'm so glad that we have you here today with this on this beautiful opportunity of this slideshow on this Sabbath that you've taken time on your special afternoon to be with us. You are going to just love this lady that we're going to be interviewing today. I have, I think, Jeni, I think this is our third Gideon Games together. Is that third round? I think it is. That's how I was first introduced to Jeni. And you will find that she is the most caring, giving, loving person. The thing that I was so attracted to her that made me want to do this interview so bad for this side-by-side is that as a Gideon Games leader, she is, I mean, she can make you feel just as individualized in your one-on-one with her, just as easy as she can have all this team camaraderie and, you know, just lifting us all up and getting us all going. And yet she can still make you feel that you're the only one that's on her list that day. It's just a really special gift that she has. And so I have gotten the pleasure of meeting her once, and I will tell you that she comes across just as sweet and nice and wonderful and full of wisdom as she was in person, as she was on all our Marco Polos and Zoom calls, and the same that you will find today with her, on this screen. So let's get started, Jenny. Got a few questions that we're going to jump into. And the first one is, I know we have a lot of members that are probably new to our Brightest Eaters Facebook group that maybe have not had a chance to meet you or get to know you. So if you'll take just a minute to just fill us in on, who you are, like, where you're living now, you're married, your children, you're working, just general information about yourself, please.
Okay, sure. So first of all, thanks for having me. I was so excited to have you ask me to do this interview. So I live in South Jordan, Utah, and I have 5 children. The oldest is 19 and on a mission in Lima, Peru. And the youngest is 8 and was just baptized this summer. I have 3 boys and 2 girls. And I work full-time, well, mostly full-time, probably 3/4 time, as a registrar at a charter school that my kids attend. So I'm pretty busy with that. Married, met my husband at BYU 20-something years ago. We both worked at the MTC, and got married from there. I was raised I was in a military family when I was raised, so I grew up on the West Coast, born in Washington, raised in California, Oregon, and Washington. We kind of just moved up the coast. And so I'm really familiar with the West Coast, but have been in Utah since I came to BYU, and we never left. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. The next question is, like, without going into details about your why and stuff, but just tell us, like, how did you even come across BLE, and how long have you been doing it?
That's a great question. So I don't actually remember how I came across it. I was doing an internet search right after my youngest baby was born. I was looking for a way to lose the baby weight when he was born, and I didn't want to do like an exercise program. I knew it had to be something related to food. And I just was doing an internet search, and it just happened to be the fall when Susan releases her food freedom videos. So I found the food freedom videos first. That was in the fall of 2015. At the time, I couldn't afford the boot camp. It was $1,000 for the boot camp. And so I thought, I'm just going to try it on my own. And she didn't release the meal plan or anything. The book wasn't out yet. And so I tried just cutting out flour and sugar, but doing it on your own was really hard. And so February of 2016, I decided to join the boot camp. So that was my first boot camp with BLE.
I have a feeling you're probably one of the oldest, not age-wise, but the oldest BLE member, like in our Brightest Eaters, because what did you say, you started 2015?
So I found it in the fall of 2015, but my first boot camp was February 2016. But yeah, okay. I don't know of any that have been doing it.
Yeah, because I've been in groups and stuff where people give their dates, and 2016 seems to be, a pretty common, as far as the furthest back. But if somebody to mention 2015, you were down on the ground, and it was just beginning as a little embryo. Like
that may have been the first release. Yeah, that may have been the first release of those food freedom videos.
Yeah, I bet it was.
Yeah.
All right, and I know in talking to you, your story is a little bit different than I would say the majority of BLE people, because the majority of people come into BLE wanting to lose weight. Some of them coming even from large numbers. But you had a different reason for joining BLE, which I think is just so interesting. And I love this part of your story. So you want to share that with, like, what made you come into BLE?
Yeah. So what I was really looking for was a program that was an elimination diet of sorts. So in 2009, I started having major inflammation problems in my body. I had what they thought was rheumatoid arthritis in my hands, major gut inflammation. I was just in a lot of pain. And so I went looking for, I probably tried a dozen elimination diets, but every time I would try an elimination diet, it wouldn't last for very long, because they never give you guidelines on how much to eat or what to eat, really just what not to eat. They would cut things out, but they would never tell you how to get the amount of calories that you would need. And so I would always make myself more sick because I probably wasn't eating enough. Because when you go on a healthy diet plan and you're eating the same amount of food that you might have been eating on a typical standard American diet, you're not getting enough calories. And so I would get dizzy or, have blood sugar issues just because I wasn't getting enough. Anyway, so I was looking for a way to cut the body inflammation, but also to know how much to eat, which is very unique. People don't want to be usually told what they should eat or how much they should eat, but that's what I was looking for. So I did find one. I found a program that taught me a little bit, like at least they told me like how many servings of something to find, but it was mostly an exercise program. It was called Fit Yummy Mummy. And I did that for about 6 years, and it was mostly exercise, but then there was a diet component. It wasn't as strict as BLE. They allowed some personal indulgences and things like that, but at least it kept me mostly clean in my eating. But I didn't want to go back to that program after I had a baby because I was so sick of exercise. So when I found out that Susan didn't encourage exercise when you start the program, I was like, hallelujah, thank you. Because I didn't want to focus on the exercise. I just wanted to focus on eating clean so that my body could heal.
Yeah. And then how long was it before you started seeing results? I mean, with the elimination that you were doing, or was
it took a long time, actually, a long time, because and we'll talk about this maybe later in the call, but I kept falling in the ditch. And so like I wasn't on it long enough to see really the results. I would see immediate improvement. And I would say I was maybe 70% improved on my health and my body inflammation, but never saw the symptoms completely eliminated. And that's what actually triggered me falling in the ditch. Because if you're going to work that hard to eat clean and you don't see the results, then it is demotivating. So
yeah, I got it. It makes sense. Well, one of the reasons that I also wanted to do this side by side is because I think one of the reasons that you are such an awesome Gideon Games leader is part of this next question is that you found out that you wanted to do, you were doing BLE, but you realized also that you were missing a really large component of the program. And I think that's why you have grabbed hold of, like these Gideon Games and, being such an awesome leader. But you want to talk about when did you realize you were missing this very important component and what that component was?
Yeah, so I'll kind of give background. I learned this from the Reboot Resume book, but I found out that I had a seasonal saboteur. So in Reboot Resume, I'll just give the background for those who haven't read the book. She talks about parts work and the relationship between the controller and the indulger. And in a seasonal controller-indulger relationship, like your controller can be in control during a certain season of the year, and then the indulger will take over. So I had that kind of a pattern with my indulger controller. So during the school year, I could stay on plan so easy because there was like a regimented kind of a schedule for me. But as soon as the summer hit and I was on summer vacations, the indulger would take over. And so I was falling into the ditch every single summer. And sometimes it would take me longer to get out of the ditch than other times. But I had never joined the Brightest Eaters groups or anything like that. I did the one boot camp. I got a second boot camp under my belt. And then I never joined Bright Lifers. So I didn't really ever have connections. And I would fall in the ditch. And then it would sometimes take me 3, 4, 5 months to crawl out of the ditch. Well, the last time I fell into the ditch was the summer of 2 years ago, 2001. And I could not climb out of the ditch for the life of me. I had this rebel part that was like, no, I don't want to have this strict diet. I don't want to work this hard. And it took me a long time to get out of the ditch. And I realized probably 8 or 9 months into that ditch experience where I was trying to get out but couldn't, that I had to do things differently. And I finally came to the realization that I had to choose in to the community and not just following it with my own willpower controller part. I needed support. And so Susan at the time, this was April of 2022, she was about to release the maintenance videos, the first of the maintenance modules in the Brightest, the hub, the Bright Lighting community. And she talked about identity. She had several webinars that talked about belonging and choosing that identity. And I just thought, you know what, that's the missing piece. I have never chosen in to the community. I've only just chosen into the plan. And so I made the decision to join the hub, to join Brightest Eaters and to participate in that maintenance modules, to be able to watch those. And immediately Gideon Games was starting, so I joined Gideon Games for the first time. And for the first time, I went through the summer and I had 5 little tiny breaks, but like kind of spread apart. And it was the first time that I made it through the summer without like falling completely into the ditch. And I realized it was because of Gideon Games. Like it held me, it gave me like accountability and support to not fall into the ditch again. So that was pretty exciting for me.
It is. So you've mentioned that you're a member of the Bright Lifers. You're with the hub, nothing, and you got Gideon Games. Are there other communities that you're a part of, or other places that you look for support?
Yeah. So when the module, I think it was halfway through the maintenance 2 modules, I decided that I really wanted a group that I could talk about the content of the Brightest Eaters, the hub, like content, the classes that came out. And so I reached out in the Brightest Eaters of the Church Facebook group, and I just said, hey, does anybody want to form a mastermind group so that we can go through, at the time, I think it was maintenance 2 that was just starting. And so we had a couple people reach out and we formed a mastermind group. It was the beginning of November when we started it last year. And so we've been going almost a year.
Yeah. And what do you do in that group? What are you doing?
We go through courses and yeah, we discuss them. So right now we're going through the boot camp 2.0.
Yeah.
And we do the work on our own. We watch the modules on our own, and then we get together and we talk about impressions or things that are more meaningful to us. Yeah, it's really helpful.
Okay. For somebody that might be listening to this, that's not really what we would call connected, or, involved in other things other than maybe just this Facebook group, what do you feel connection does for you? I mean, like, why do you think that was your missing link, and what is it doing for you now?
Oh my goodness, connection is huge. I'm a big supporter of connection. In fact, after the Brightest in Utah conference, I was like, okay, what is it that makes people want to feel connected and to stay connected? I'm like doing a whole study on it, like reading books about connection, because I really feel like that is, so many of us have an isolator part that thinks I can do this on my own. I don't need to talk to I don't need to commit my food. I don't need to talk to somebody about my program. But honestly, I think it's the webbing that like holds me. It's like a hammock, it just holds me so that I'm not having to use all of my efforts to support myself. So it's just like a safe place for me to just hold my program without like having to put a lot of effort into it. And when I'm struggling, or if that something comes up in an emotional struggle that has maybe nothing to do with food, it gives me a place to get support on that so that it never turns to the food. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I come from a family I had a really rough childhood. I have 4 brothers, no sisters, and my mom was depressed. I don't have a strong relationship with my mom. My brothers were all jailbirds. Like I always teased that I was the white sheep of the family. So like getting my emotional support from family has never been an option for me. And so, you get support from people at church or whatever, but I needed a community that was like-minded, that have the same goals, that have the same struggles even. And then I just feel like I'm understood, I'm seen, I'm heard, and I just feel like that's home. That feels like the family support that I needed to hold my program. So yeah,
got it. Well, I have definitely heard you speak about your, connected, and how much you have to have it and how vital it is to your program. And so I want to hit it at one more area before we move on. And that is that we hear a lot of people that like get the book and they'll follow the plan and they have success, or we hear people that buy the book and follow the plan and also will maybe, accidentally stumble across maybe some sort of Facebook group that follows Bright Line Eating, and they too have success. So my question for you then is, why did you join the main hub? What Susan calls it like the mothership. What do you get out of being connected to the hub and to the actual BLE, the original community?
So I'm really glad you asked this question, because I would have asked the exact same question 7 years ago. I did the boot camp. I got the support that I needed in the boot camp. My program was so solid when I left the boot camp, and I didn't think that I needed the support at all. So I didn't join Bright Lifers. That's what they called it then. And then a year later, the book came out. So I have the book here. Like, I bought the book and I was like, okay, I read it, strengthened my program, but it doesn't, like, I'm not going back to the book when I'm like feeling tempted to fall into the ditch, and it's not going to hold me, right? During my times of struggle. And so when it came around again, and I had been in the ditch for 10 months, and I realized doing it my way is not working, because every year I had this pattern of strong, 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 fall in the ditch, strong, strong, strong. And I needed something that was going to keep me from getting into the ditch, you know? And so I joined Bright Lifers because I thought maybe the maintenance course and the connections would help. I just thought, if I'm gonna like trust Susan with my food program, then maybe I need to trust her in everything. And what she was saying was, you need food action support. And I was just doing that food part. I wasn't like building a morning routine or building an evening routine. The actions weren't not like really very solid in my program. And then that support part was non-existent. And so then, but I did find the Brightest Eaters of the Church group before I joined the hub. And that was helpful. But I think that all of the pieces that Susan encourages for support were huge to me. Like, daily connection on like morning accountability calls, daily like exposure to content, like watching a module, you know, watching a video was super, super helpful. The Gideon Games team, mastermind groups, buddies, like all of the elements that she teaches, she doesn't teach because it's just kind of fun. Like, there are reasons why that system works to support you. And I ignored it for 7 years, and I realized doing it my way is not working. So I'm going to try it her way to see if it will work. And lo and behold, like, all of a sudden my program came together when it was so much of a struggle to hold it together on my own. All of a sudden, like, it came together for me. And I can't say like which element was, oh, it was because of Gideon Games, that's the reason. So I just need that element and I don't need any of it. Like, there are so many bits and pieces that contribute to a strong program, and I can't say which one I could eliminate. Like, all of it came together to give me the support that I needed to finally pull my program together. And I don't want to unravel that fabric to see which piece was disposable, you know, like then I start getting holes in my the support. So I just love it all, and I'm really, really grateful that I made the sacrifice to just try it, you know, prove the program, like do it, go all in, and just see if it's for you.
Yeah, that was an awesome answer. Now, when you were speaking, it reminded me of, you know, that when you talk about missing the parts, like you had the food part, but you were missing the action and definitely the support. And it was kind of like you were taking it like cafeteria style, you know, just coming in and choosing. And it dawned on me, it's like, yeah, that's where you know, how important it is when she says, come all the way in and sit down, you know, come all the way in, you know. And so that's all of it is, you know, so important. And then when you think about it, the food, the action, and then the support, I mean, if you miss one of them, it'd be like the three-legged stool, you know, and how you could be off balance and not be able to be, you know.
And you may not even know like why you're off balance. You just say something's missing, and I don't know what it is. And it might not be that your food's falling off, but you feel like you're on shaky foundation.
Yeah. Well, we're not done with this interview, but what I really hope that people are beginning to understand about you is how vitally important community is for you, and how much you know, really rely on it, and how it really plays a huge part, you know, of your program. And as I've said several times now, I'm so blessed to be in your Gideon Games. And this summer, we as a team celebrated a really big milestone for you this summer. Would you like to tell everybody what that milestone was this summer?
Yeah. So July 27th, I celebrated 1 full year Bright.
Yes.
And what's significant about that is when I finally added in the community piece, I joined first the Brightest Eaters of the Church group. And literally within a week of my joining, there was a post by Genevieve Campbell, who I knew from high school, who said, I have been 1 year bright, because I believe her bright year started right around New Year's. And she said, I've been 1 year bright. And I was like, what? It's even possible? Like, when you're on your own, you don't even know that anybody's trying to be 1 year bright, much less that they're successful doing it. And so that was my goal. Like, as soon as she said it, I was like, I want to be able to do that. I want to be 1 year bright. And my last break was in the summer of last year, and finally came around again, where I made it 1 full year bright, and I was so excited.
And you've mentioned earlier that you did have these seasonal, staying bright and breaking. So go into a little bit more detail, because I know there are those that also experience what we call these summer breaks, but talk about your continued and chronic past of breaking your lines in the summertime, but yet in the school year, you were bright. So a little bit more about what you think was going on with that summertime breaks.
Yeah, I mean, really, it's that there's a time of year where my food controller has no problems being disciplined and in control, but summer was not it. Especially my weakness is really family vacations and being around other people. So when I'm not in my own home and I am vacationing, staying with in-laws, going to the beach. We're from Oregon, and my in-laws own a beach house, and so we're there every year, 2 or 3 weeks in the summer sometimes. And yeah, it just like it throws you. There's sights, sounds, you're out of your routine, and it just, the rationalizer and the indulger starts to plant little thoughts like maybe one little thing is okay or whatever. And one thing leads to the next, and it never starts with a full on I'm in the ditch. Like, usually it's a little here, and then a few days later another little break, and then the breaks become more and more frequent until I'm full on in the ditch. And what happens is, for me, because I have massive body inflammation when I eat the standard American diet, within 2-3 months, I realized, this really has been working for me, this bright line eating, as far as my health is concerned, because immediately my body inflammation comes back. Within 3 months, I'm in so much pain. I'm like, okay. The food controller starts saying, honey, this is not working. This is the reason why we have to, live on this stricter, more organized plan, because when left to yourself, you choose wrong foods, and it creates so much pain in my body. Yeah. And I'm hurting so bad. But even then, when I was hurting so bad, I still stayed in the ditch like 10 months the last time. So now I'm like, don't even entertain those thoughts of even one. Like, I treat myself like I'm a full on 10. Oh, we didn't even talk about that part. I'm a 7 on the scale. I tend to be a grazer, and I've heard Joanne say that grazers tend to score a little bit lower on the scale. But if I am left to my own devices, I will be eating pretty much like 90% of my diet is NMF. So I know I'm addicted, and it doesn't cause weight gain, but it causes massive body inflammation. And so, yeah, that's what happens. That was the pattern. And so now I treat myself like I'm a 10. I don't let myself even one little step onto that slippery slope, because I know that I'll fall right in. So.
Yeah. And that sounds like some of the things you were doing maybe to get ready for that. But I was just thinking, like, coming up on Memorial Day weekend, you're about to hit the road this summer. So was there anything that you did, mindset, physically prepping? I mean, was there anything that you did to get yourself ready to have this bright summer that you just completed?
This year?
Yeah, that you had your bright summer.
So here's the biggest trick. The biggest factor is my son left on his mission on June 5th. So we were home all of June because he had home MTC, and then we had the conference. So we didn't go anywhere in June. And then the beach house wasn't available this year. So I literally have not gone on vacation this year. Like, we've done little trips with our family, but I haven't experienced the real test. We're going home for Christmas, and that will be my first trip away. Like, I think I just needed the separation from the pattern. Yeah. And I don't think that a December trip will be as hard for me as maybe a summer trip, but I did have to detach from the pattern.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. No, I got it. And so in relation to, staying bright with this, even with your summer staying bright, I know some of the stories that you shared with me. You are a very, very busy working mom. Your house is going, 90 miles an hour, all the time. And so how are you able to stay bright with the demands of being this very busy mom, always on the go with lots of time spent like in the car? Like just before we started this video, when you first got on, we were talking about your day yesterday that started, your daughter had dance, ballroom dance that started at 8. You didn't even finish until after 4. So I know you left the house way before 8 and you didn't get home till probably 6 or after. So I mean, like, how do you plan your days when you know it's going to be just packed with children's activities from sunup to sundown?
So I heard Shauna Murph counsel once to always plan your food in advance. And that was something I never did when I was doing it on my own. But after I joined the community and I'm hearing this advice from people who have been successful in following the program, I thought that's what I need to do. So the number one key for me staying bright is everything is prepared in advance. My breakfast is prepared in advance. My lunch is prepared in advance. Like I've got multiple meals ahead. I am not Beth Monroe with 30 meals in my freezer for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, like for the next, and I don't even have a full week, but I have 3-4 days in advance always. And so like, for example, yesterday we were up at 4:30. We left the house at 6:30. I ate breakfast before we left. I packed my meal that was already in the fridge. It literally takes me 2 minutes to pack my lunch. And I just assemble it all with a cooler bag and I just go out the door. And every day I could do that because it's already in the fridge. It's already prepared. And that saves me. And then for dinner, like I always just prepare a few meals worth of vegetables ahead of time. I have in my freezer already portioned 4 ounces of meat, lots of different kinds of meats. I've got my breakfast grain, like everything is already pre-prepared, the things that take time to prepare. So it's really just the vegetables every day that I'm preparing several meals in advance so that there's always prepared vegetables in my fridge. I don't eat raw vegetables just because that part of my gut issues is that my body can't process the raw. And so it always has to be cooked. So I've always got to have, 3-4 meals already cooked vegetables in my fridge.
All right. Well, with the busy mom, when do you have time to cook those vegetables to have it ready 3 meals in 3 days ahead? Or when's your schedule?
Do it, like I'm making it at dinner and I just do more than one meal.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even if it's 2 or 3 meals, at least I've got breakfast or lunch and dinner for the next day. Yeah. And if I don't eat at dinner because I'm making food the next day, then that's the lunch the next day. Like it's always just kind of this rotating food. Yeah.
Well, what did that mean to you yesterday morning at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning when you went to your refrigerator and just grabbed your lunch? What did that mean to you that you were able to do that? That took you maybe 30 seconds to pull it out of the refrigerator and put it in a cooler bag, right?
So this is what I've discovered about my personality is that I really need my food to be easy and like no brainer. And so like it's the ultimate fast food when I'm just grabbing what I need and I'm sticking it in and I don't even have to think about it. It's so nice. Like it's just, there's no strain on my brain. It's so comforting to know it's already there. And last night I pulled the meat out of the fridge, or the night before I pulled the meat out of the freezer into the fridge so that it wouldn't be frozen when I tried to eat it at lunch. There's no microwave. I just eat it cold, but it's like so comforting to know that it's just there and I don't have to think about it.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. What about somebody that has a lot of time and they think, well, I don't need to prep all these meals in advance because I have the time. So what do you advocate like for the freedom that it gives you to have it sitting there ready?
Oh, you know what? I do look forward to having time, but I would still at least have a day in advance, always, because there's going to be this day when, maybe your daughter calls and says, Mom, baby just broke his leg and I've got to go to the hospital. Can you watch the other kids or whatever, like there's things come up all the time. And so at least having like an emergency food kit. I know a member of my mastermind team like has the marsala lentils and cauliflower rice and a couple of cans of like green beans or whatever, like she's got an emergency meal,
Right.
I would at least have that, because then there's always going to be something to come up, and now you don't have the time. And if you didn't prepare it in advance, then there's going to be a time when you really needed it to be prepared in advance. So
Yeah. Yeah, I was asking that because I do have a lifestyle where I, thankfully I'm in the season of my life where I do have more time than I used to when I had, the 8 children at home. But the freedom that it gives you, and like you said, there are things that come up. Life is lifey. And when you have that peace of knowing when you get called at the last minute because my daughter is not going to be able to be home to pick up a child at a bus stop, it's like, got it. And you just grab the lunch and off you go and don't even give it a second thought, so it's a great peaceful feeling to know that your food is always ready. You just have to, it's more time consuming to go grab the ice pack in the, in the little lunch bag. That's the busiest part of the whole prep thing, right? So it's very, 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 oh, it's so peaceful and freeing. Okay. So when you think about all the different components of the BLE program, is there any one part that stands out a little taller than that you could give credit to for your success in BLE? Now, I know we've mentioned, you've talked about your community and how vital that is to you. And of course, the spiritual assistance and, things of that nature. But is there anything of like the tools or tools of BLE that you really rely on to help you stay successful?
yeah, so a couple of them. First, that preparing the food in advance, that's a big one. Daily connection. So it doesn't happen every day, but I would say 5 days a week, I'm watching the morning accountability call. So it's just part of my morning routine to have my breakfast with Joanne or Lynn, whoever's hosting in the morning, just to have it like as just kind of one of those like reconnection, like we need reconnection with God and the Spirit. We need connection with, in our prayers and our scripture study. That's just another way to reconnect with the things that I value. And so that's one thing. And meditation is another thing that I really felt like has been super grounding to me in my program, and making sure that gets added. And there are seasons in my life where it slips and I can feel it. And
Okay.
and I have to re-add it back in. I'm in that season now because August was like a really rough month. I know you know this, but I was working like 40 or 60-hour weeks. I'm a school registrar at the school where I work. And so it was really busy first part of the year. And so some of my habit stacks kind of started to slip. And so I'm just in the process of rebuilding those habits. And just making sure that those things are really important to me. Like just having that connection with myself, having that connection with material, with God, all of those things are really helpful to keep me grounded in my program. So
thanks. That's awesome. And that just leads me into a great segue for our next question. It's on a kind of a different, not the secular world or the secular part of the program is, where have you seen Heavenly Father, the Savior, the Holy Ghost, or all three of members of the Godhead? Where have you seen them in your BLE journey?
oh goodness. So this is a fun little story that I like to tell. Every time I would fall in the ditch, I would pray to Heavenly Father that he would give me a different answer, because I know that I was led to bright line eating. And when I prayed about it, he said, yes, this is the answer for you. And then when the indulger would take over and wouldn't want to follow the program, I would say, there's got to be another answer. And the Spirit would always say, good try, but no, this is the answer and you're going to figure it out. And eventually I would come back around to agreeing and following the program. And now that I look at it, and I've been bright for, I think I'm over 400 days now, or 30 or something. Anyway, now I go, the Lord was he was directing me all along and saying, oh, you're so cute, good try, and wanting to find something else, but this is what will help you. And he knew all along what was going to help. I just kind of had to work out some kinks in my own emotional wellness that I'd be willing to allow him to follow. And it really has been a lesson to me on a lot of different spiritual planes, not just with food, but with so many other planes, where he has a plan for me. And sometimes I'm not ready to get to the point where he wants me to get to, but he's like encouraging me along the path that's going to lead me to that place. And I know he's been with me the whole way.
So expound a little bit more on that. Then what does that mean to you and your program now that you know that he led you to it? I mean, like if you conceded to the thought of like, okay, he brought me here, I'm here because I was led here. So
yeah, no, it's comforting to know that the Lord cared about my food, and that he cared about, my gut health, and that he would lead me to a program. And so easily it like literally fell into my lap. And I wasn't looking for like long-term answers. I just wanted the immediate relief from symptoms, but that he cares enough to lead me there. I know that he cares enough to lead me in so many other ways. And so I have brought in through Gideon Games, we do a Tuesday talk, and people share, a conference talk that maybe has helped them. But I love how bringing in the spiritual elements to our Bright Line Eating journey it's so helpful to study about repentance or the atonement, or last couple of weeks I was studying about embracing the chastisement of the Lord, and just like knowing and being willing to surrender to like his tutelage, and that he trusting that he does really know what's best for us, and like bringing in all of those elements of the spiritual with the journey of the temporal. I just find it very beautiful because there's nothing temporal in his mind. Like it all is spiritual to him, and he wants to lead our path. And just trusting that, and just it has strengthened my relationship with him. My prayers have changed. My study of the gospel has changed because he cared about the temporal and he cares about the spiritual. Like it's all one to him, and it all kind of just gels so well together. It's just beautiful.
it is beautiful. I love that. I love your answer. And it reminded me a few years ago, I was actually in the celestial room of the temple and knew I was being chastised by the Lord, but I did not take it as, detriment or negativity. I remember just sitting there with like tears in my eyes, being grateful, really, truly grateful, because I thought it was such a confirmation that he knew me by name and he loved me, that he cared enough to come and just correct me. And I needed it. I needed a course correction, and he was giving it to me. So I didn't look at the chastisement as negative at all. It was something very beautiful.
Well, and that's what I was studying like a couple of weeks ago. I just realized, the result of chastisement, like Laman and Lemuel, when they were chastised for murmuring, the result was a softened heart, their anger melted away, and they were able to be blessed. Like it was never guilt trip or like anything negative at all. It's always a result of in positive things. And I realized, like, just like repentance, where sometimes it's gotten this negative connotation, like, oh, you're sinful or whatever. It's not like that at all. The Lord just wants us to grow, and he knows what's best. He knows how to help us grow. And if we can hear it and we can act on it, we realize that like we're ready for that next step, and he led us to that next step. And how beautiful is that he wants to lead us.
I'll always be eternally grateful, because it was a huge course correction for me. And it was not negative at all. It was definitely out of love, so it was amazing. Thank you for reminding me of that. Okay. So this past June, the Brightest Eaters Conference was held, as we know, and we were so incredibly fortunate to have Joanne Campbell Rice to be the keynote, the keynote guest speaker. And you were given the opportunity to ask Joanne a question when there was a segment of Ask Joanne, Ask Joanne a Question time. Would you please, tell us about that opportunity? Because some of, maybe have not heard that, and what question you asked her and what her response was.
Yeah. So Joanne wanted to just have an open question and answer session at the conference. And so they said, anybody who has a question, just go ahead and stand up. And so I stood up and I asked her kind of a two-part question, but really, does Bright Line Eating Central, are they aware of all of their populations, and especially the populations of people who maybe didn't have a lot of weight to lose, maybe are here for other reasons besides weight loss? And then what are they doing to reach out to them? And really the question is, how do we reach out to bring in and help others belong if they're not feeling like they belong? Because for me, I had to choose, like I came to a point where I realized I had to choose in and to choose to belong. But I think that there's so many who kind of just stay on the outskirts and they're observers of the process, but maybe don't choose in. And how could we pull them in and be more, welcoming, or reach out to those populations? And she had a couple of things that she shared, but really the awareness is there, but really it came down to like, there's personal responsibility. Like, my choosing in show, like, as soon as you choose to belong, you do belong. You're welcome in this space for anyone who chooses in. And that's kind of a doctrinal principle too. Just like, many are called, but few are chosen. And why are they not chosen? It's because they don't choose to, like we choose in, and then we belong to the Lord's kingdom. And the same with BLE. And so anyway, I just really felt like the answer pointed me back to my beginning efforts, like that when you choose to belong, you adopt this beautiful family of people who are going to welcome you in because they're all amazing. And that's the culture that's been established to just support, and how can we help, and 6-week buddies, and there's so many opportunities to just connect to people and to be a part and to have this beautiful community. But you kind of have to take that first step and choose in. So
Yeah, I love that.
I really love that. Was where I learned that grazers tend to score lower on the susceptibility scale, and that was like profound for me, because I was like, yeah, that's proof that really I am higher on the scale. It just happens to be that I'm a grazer, so I scored lower. But the whole system, or the whole question answer, was just really awesome for me. Just connecting with Joanne, she's so wise, and she just nailed it. Like,
she always does.
Yeah, it was so awesome. So
yeah, she has such a gift with words, such a gift. Yeah, I love that. Thank you. All right, so we as Latter-day Saints, we all are looking forward to this upcoming weekend, when we're going to be able to be so blessed to hear from our beloved prophet and our other church leaders. But since I've been in your Gideon games, I have heard you refer to yourself as a General Conference widow. Okay. So would you explain to the rest of us today, I know what it means, but I would love for you to explain what that means, how you achieve that title, and exactly where your husband is and what he is doing every General Conference weekend that makes you a General Conference widow.
Yes, great question. So I'm actually really a church widow. My husband works for the church, and so weekly he's doing music and the spoken word. So if our church is at 9:30 or 9, or if it's at 10:30, he's not at church. When we have 1 o'clock or 12:30 church, he's there. Like, I'm not a widow those years, but every other year I'm a widow, because he's doing music and the spoken word. But General Conference is a whole nother level of church widowhood, because he is an audio engineer. And his responsibility during conference is to make sure the conference is translated into all the languages that it's broadcasted in. So he's live streaming, they're sending streams overseas, and like a lot of times it's being translated in country, sent back to the church to be broadcasted back to that country. It's really fascinating, the technology. But he is at the conference center 6 a.m. He doesn't get home until usually 9:30 or 10. Like, it's a 14-hour day for him.
Wow.
On Saturday, and then Sunday slightly shorter, might be like a 10 to 12-hour day. But he's gone the whole time, and usually he's not hearing conference in English. He's hearing conference in every other language. And so he, like, a lot of the announcements and things like that he doesn't hear on the weekend of conference. He has to go back and like re-listen to conference, because he misses all the fun stuff, because he's been listening to it in Twi and Guano and every other language around the world. It's usually broadcasted live in between 90 and 100 languages.
That's what I was going to ask. Have you ever heard how many languages? Wow.
Yeah, usually between 90 and 100, and then post-recorded, they'll post-record a few more. So yeah, that's what he does.
Well, from me, and I'm sure for every other person that's on this call, will you please thank him? And thank you for putting up with that all these years, that he is offering such a wonderful, wonderful service. But you have to sacrifice for that too. So thank you for that, but also thank your husband. That's a wonderful, wonderful thing that he's doing for so many that they can have that. And I loved hearing what your children do in your living room when you have general conference, just you and your children. You want to share a little bit about that, what you're doing on general conference weekends?
Yeah, so we on our Gideon Games team, we do a question Friday, and my question was, how do you prepare for conference, and what are your conference traditions? So I shared mine. And my kids, since they were very little, it's always just been us, and they decided that they wanted to be like King Benjamin's people. So we have the little play pop-up tents, and they would all pitch their little tents. We had one for everybody. I have 5 children, and so they would pitch their little tents that their little bodies would fit in with their pillows and everything, and they would point them toward the TV or to the computer screen to listen to the words of the prophets. So that's always been super fun. So most of my kids are older now. I have 2 in high school, but my elementary kids still pitch their tents, and it's fun. So
I can just visualize those little faces popping out of the tent door facing the TV. Pointing,
miraculously,
right?
it keeps them engaged. Like they love it. It's all part of the play, you know, to be listening
Yeah.
to people. So.
I think it's awesome. I love that. Okay, now we're winding down. So this is one question that I thought that we could end with, because I think that there may be someone out there today. And what would you say to this person if there might be someone listening right now, or perhaps they may, catch it on the recording in the next day or two, but perhaps they are really struggling right now. Perhaps they're in the ditch. Maybe they've been in the ditch for a while. They're possibly even considering just quitting BLE completely, saying, this is not for me. I'm never going to get this. I don't know. It's just not for me. I'm going to quit. What would you say to those people, for somebody such as yourself that has experienced being in the ditch more than once and for long stretches of time?
Yeah, I would say I get it. And then I would say you only fail if you give up. So don't give up. And then just look for ways to do it, to surrender a little deeper. For me, it was to get involved in the community and to automate my food, and to make it a little more simple. Like, you have to get to the point where you're willing to make that surrender, because 10 months of the ditch, I was trying to climb out of it and I couldn't climb out. So I get that, like, it's not going to be like overnight, oh, you just have to fix this and then you're on your way and you're fine. You do have to come to that place where you're finally willing to, like, relinquish whatever it is that's holding you. But when you're finally able to do that, and you just hold on, like, stick around, stick with the community, there's going to be something that will pull you back. And I know that it's the Lord. The Lord will plant something that will pull you back, and follow the plan. Like, come to a deeper willingness to be all in, to find connection, to get the support you need, to do the food and action and support, like all of those pieces that help to build a strong program. It may take time to get to that point, but I would just say, don't leave. Like, just keep your connections and keep trying. And eventually there's gonna be something that will click. And honestly, I do think it's divine intervention, and you'll be okay. I know from experience that you will be okay, and it will click. It will click eventually.
Yeah. And the saying that we hear, especially like in AA programs, is like, don't quit till the miracle happens, and there is a lot of truth in that. And yeah, and there's a lot to that. And the only way you're going to fail is if you quit. That you will fail that way, and so, but you had an excellent answer. So if there's anybody that is struggling right now, I would highly recommend that you push, replay, back up the video a little bit to that answer, to hear that again and again, because she gave excellent suggestions of what the blueprint would be to get you out of the ditch, but to get you back on the road and get you, because you're not that far. You might be in the ditch, but you're, what did she say, 2 to 3 feet from getting back on the road? Yeah.
Yeah. And 2 feet from the ditch. So
yeah, you're not that far. All right, so we're going to leave it now to ask if there's anybody that has a question for you, and that will pretty well wrap us up today. Does anybody have a question for our wonderful guest speaker? All right, Miss Shauna, I'm going to unmute you. Unmute yourself. Okay, Shauna.
I actually had two questions, but I'll just only ask one. So I'm not a question hog, but Jenny, I'm curious, have you noticed that doing bright line eating has it affected your mood or your emotions at all as you've been bright? Have you seen any improvement?
So my kids would say an emphatic yes. Yeah, like it really has. And part of that is that I'm no longer in pain. So Rexanne, you asked earlier, like, did it fix my health problems? And it didn't for a long, long time. But I can say that being a full year bright, like I am 95% healthy. Like I don't have the body inflammation anymore. And that has shifted my mood a lot because like, oh, it is working. And I have no desire to like let it go because now I'm like, okay, I'm on the other side of that pain. But also I think, yeah, like just eating well does something for your mood. But I mentioned the meditation earlier, like the practices I think are really what help my mood more. Like having a morning routine and having a morning meditation and those sorts of things has shifted so much. Yeah, my mood has improved a lot. So
Thanks.
Thank
Such
you.
a great interview.
All right, Beth, you can unmute yourself. Do I have to unmute you?
Oh, here we go. Sorry. I'm trying to find the buttons. So my question is just about your family and how well did they accept and support you in your bright line eating journey? Like, how does your husband feel about it? Is it, does he support you? Like when you guys go places, is he mindful of, your bright lines and things like that? How does he respond and how do your kids react to bright
they are
line eating?
amazing. None of them are interested in letting go of any NMF, but my husband is so supportive and he's constantly going, oh, I need to get you more meat so you can, stock up on your portions in the freezer or whatever. My husband does, many don't know this, but my husband does most of the cooking. My husband is an angel who loves to cook and I don't do it at all. And so probably halfway through COVID, he took over the cooking responsibilities of the home. And he does mostly the kids' stuff, but he's even taken over doing mine. Like he'll prep my vegetables. He'll say, what else do you need? Like he's so, so supportive. And so I honestly owe probably 90% of my resume from last April. I owe that much credit to my husband because he is amazing and supportive in making sure that I have what I need to. And now I'm like kind of, okay, now I can contribute to my own health. But, when you're hurting, you don't really efforted, sometimes to want to take care of yourself. You mostly want to just sit down and like not exert yourself. But no, my husband is amazing and supportive. My children are all supportive. Sometimes there's a little bit of like, oh, you're on another call. But, it's okay. Like, I get that. But
yeah, that's great. Oh, thank you for your interview. So
I love
fun.
that. All right, Karen, you want to unmute?
Yeah. Oh, Jenny, it sounds like you've got the number one husband who will prep food for you. That's amazing. I think I have number two husband because he cooks his own food. I don't have to cook for him at all. We're empty nesters. And so I cook my food, he cooks his, and we're just blissfully happy that way. So congratulations. Now I got to train my husband to cook mine for me. Anyway, my question for you is, how much parts works have you done and how have you felt like it's helped you if you have?
Oh my goodness, I'm a huge fan of parts work, but I actually used a different system for a long, long time. So the terms are maybe a little bit different, but I've been doing like energy type parts work for many years. I would say 6 or 7 years. And learning to recognize that it's not you, that it's just a part of you that has maybe a food thought or an indulger part, like that's not you, it's just a part. And to recognize that maybe there's reasons why those parts are flaring up, that has been so helpful because then I can recognize that, oh, it's because of this, this trigger or that trigger. And even if I don't even know what the trigger is, just recognizing that it's just one part and to comfort and soothe that part or recognize it and acknowledge it instead of shaming it has been so big in my life. I probably started parts work maybe, yeah, like I said, 7-8 years ago. And my whole world has shifted as far as my internal dialogue. No longer looking at, why can't I pull it together? And, what's wrong with me? Those types of dialogues. And instead saying, that's interesting, and getting curious. And what is that part? And I wonder why it's flared up today. And yeah, that's a big piece we didn't really cover in the interview, but thank you for asking that.
Well, thank you. This has been a beautiful interview, and it's really helped me a lot. So thank you, Roxanne and Jeni. This has been wonderful.
Thank you. Well, we've run out of time. We've come up on our hour. So, but I want to thank Jeni. And it was, you were just amazing. And I'm so excited that I got to spend this time with you. And hopefully those that didn't know you a little better and have fallen in love with you, like we that do know you already love you. And just love all your wisdom, love all your kindness and love that you always have for everyone. You're just a special, special person in my life for sure. But I want to thank all those that came today on this, on this Sabbath afternoon. You've taken the time to come and be with us. For that, I am grateful. So we're going to sign off now and just hope everybody continues to enjoy the rest of their Sabbath. Thank you. And Jeni, love you. Thank you. Thank you.
Love
thank
you,
you.
Rick. Thank
All
you,
right.
everyone.
Thank you, everybody.